Hello, welcome Wayshower to another episode of the Wholeness Wisdom Well. I'm your guide, Lizette Morais, and today we're going to be talking about the topic of destiny. Is it real? Is it not? That's what exactly we're going to dive into in this episode. So, is destiny real? Yes or no? And the answer is yes and no. As with most fifth dimensional understanding, we transcend the paradox of black and white, yes and no, and we go into it's actually both, yes and no. So this is such an important topic, and it's the most common that people will ask me when they find out what I do, supporting way showers to step into their natural divinity, connecting them to the 12th dimensional consciousness. This is one of the questions that comes up often. And it's been put in paradox because when we start unlocking this answer and we start understanding the power of destiny and what that actually means, our purpose, then we actually step into our sovereignty and power. So I wanted to share this in a couple of ways. I started receiving this question very early on, maybe already in my 20s. And the answer I intuitively got from my higher self was that there's actually like three destinies. There's the destiny that God, the higher source, the higher self has prepared for us, has intentionally mapped out for us the highest goal and the highest purpose and calling. So the calling that we said yes to as infinite souls to incarnate here in a human life, and there was a certain goal, a certain purpose and destiny that we were to fulfill. And then sometimes we do not choose that destiny. In this realm of the 3D consciousness, we have free will. So sometimes we do not achieve our destiny. I don't believe that just automatically we achieve our destiny. But then there was the third thing, which was, but in the end, whether we achieve the destiny or not, we as infinite beings get to leave this life, transcend the veil. And when we become spirit and energy once again, we can get to, with Creator God, choose again if we want to reincarnate or not. Maybe we need to reincarnate. So reincarnation is also not a yes and no for me either because of this insight. And that was the intuitive response that I got from the higher self. And as time has gone on in my own life, I have seen that happen more and more. And the way I want to kind of show this to you is in a story. And it's a very personal story, but a very beautiful one, which happened in 2014 around October. And my father was diagnosed with cancer then already in 2009, but it had come back, and this time treatment was not responding at all, and it was spreading throughout his body, and he was basically on his deathbed, and I knew that he was passing. And because of that, I moved from Holland to Portugal to be with him most of the time, and I would travel back and forth to do my business. And one day I was talking to a client who had invited me to do a keynote speech. And they had just hired me to come and do a keynote speech for them around innovation, around creative thinking, and it was a pharmaceutical company. So when I got the deal, I switched off the phone and I kind of squealed. I did my happy dance. I was excited. I was, yeah. And everything in me lit up. I was so excited. And Dad came out of his bedroom very slowly and very frail. And he asked me, what was going on, what was happening. And I said, Dad, you'll never believe it. You'll never believe it. I'm just hired to talk, and I'm going to talk for 45 minutes in this keynote. I'm going to be sharing about change and innovation and creativity. And they're going to pay me 3,500 euros to come and speak. And Dad did not have the reaction that I thought. I thought my dad would be absolutely as thrilled as I was. But instead, Dad kind of went into shock. And I didn't really understand it. It was very surprising. I was worried that because he was so frail that I was, adding to his pain. So I guided him to a chair. He sat down on the sofa, and I went to go grab him a glass of water. And I kind of kneeled in front of my father and gave him the water. And I looked at him, and he was taking his water, and tears were just pouring down his face. This was really not the response I expected. So I started with, Dad, I'm sorry if I upset you, and he goes, no, don't apologize. Please don't apologize. It's me that needs to apologize. And I said, what do you mean? It took him a few minutes to kind of gather himself, and then he began to tell the story. And he told me that at 5 years old, we were in Botswana, and it was just me and him. We were in the 4x4 in the pickup truck, and we were driving down this road, and he asked me this question of what did I want to do when I grew up? What did I want to do with my life? And I said to him, and this is him telling me back the story, right? He said, you said with all certainty, Dad, I want to talk. I'm good at it. And then he goes, you are? And then I said, I talk a lot. And he says, oh, yes, you do. And then he said, so what do you want to talk about? And I said, Dad, I have no idea. I have no idea yet, but I want to talk. And he said to me, and he's relaying the story, tears rolling down his eyes, saying, Lizette, and I said to you, honey, no one will ever pay you just to talk. And he had seen before his death that what I had said at 5 years old was literally coming true. He saw that I had always known what I was meant to do. But he had talked me out of my destiny. So he apologized to me, and he said, sorry, Lizette, that I didn't believe in you. Sorry that I made you doubt the call in your heart. And I seeded that doubt. I seeded that fear that you couldn't do what you knew you were here to do. And in that moment, guys, I had a choice to make. And I took it in, and I took a deep breath, and I chose to forgive, and I chose love and understanding that this man loved me more than anything in the whole world, and that it was his fear and his conditioning that had not been able to support me to dream my dream, my highest dream, right? The highest goal. So I took a deep breath, and I looked at him, and I said, Dad, please don't cry. It's all right. It's all perfect. And he said, what do you mean it's not perfect? And I said, yes, it is. Because you see, I'm going to get to talk. I'm going to get to fulfill my destiny. And now that I remember that I've always known, and that is my calling, I'm going to be able to do that. And thank you for sharing that story with me. And Dad, I didn't waste any years because I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. So yes, I had a career of corporate life, which never really fulfilled me, but it taught me a hell of a lot. It taught me content. It taught me the struggles of leadership. It taught me how to work with people, how to inspire people, how to be a trainer, how to lead. It taught me how to lead. So it gave me the content. And then he asked me if I would forgive him. And I said, it is forgiven. It is forgiven. And you know what, guys? the relief that I saw on my father's face was worth it all. And I'm glad he transitioned, watching that I get to live my dream. I get to fulfill my destiny. But it also showed me that our higher self, even when we came, it knew what we were meant to do. I knew I wanted to be a speaker. But I had never been coached or pruned for speaking. I'd never been prepared for the stage, but that is my natural ability. And what my father did, even through his fear, was to guide me down a different path that actually allowed me to garner content. Now, so I share this story because this was a moment of initiation in destiny. And I had a choice. Yes, my father was sick. Yes, he was frail. Yes, he was emotional. But I'm sure you'd agree that in that moment, I also had a divine right, a free will, to be very angry. I mean, Dad had opposed me at every single step of the road. Every time I had an inner standing, an understanding of what I needed to do, the calling within me, it was my closest and my dearest who would say, surely not, Lizette, don't be crazy. Oh, you're such a dreamer. And even though I knew, I just knew it was the next step, Spirit was showing me, I constantly had to stand up for what I believed. And it wasn't only through Dad, it was through basically everybody. So I could have been very angry, but in that moment, by grace, I stayed conscious and I made the choice to forgive. And what I've noticed is for us to really embody our highest destiny, our call of love that's on our life, the call of Spirit who is divine infinite love, then we must be choosing love. And that for me is walking in compassion. That is why I teach what I teach within Arise, and the mentorship programs are all about how to root into this divine love, into this compassion, into this essence of our soul, so that we can use our consciousness to make the right choices in these moments, because it really is up to us. But then, can we lose our destiny? Well, not really, because if we die, we just go to the other side. We are not going to be judged by some being, but we are going to judge ourselves. We are going to review everything that we've done, and we will decide whether it was the highest or not, and we will know with a deep knowing. So I've chosen in my life personally, I'm going to try and do as right by compassion as I can. And that was the moment I chose. Now that Dad is gone, I cannot tell you the peace and relief I have that was the choice I made. But I also want to share what Jesus has to say about this, because Jesus is my savior and my spiritual guide, and my greatest teacher, and who I believe was the first way shower, really showing the way. And he even called himself the way, the truth, and the life. So he spoke of this to his disciples, and I'm going to read from Mark 4:15, and these are from Mark 4:14, and he's sharing the parable of the sower, which is speaking exactly about destiny. So he says, the sower sows the word. Now, as creators, we create by our words. Sound. The sound, the emanation, our vibration is what creates our reality. And this is what he's talking about. So, and there are ones by the wayside where the word is sown. When they hear it, Satan comes immediately and takes away the word that was sown in their hearts. These likewise are the ones sown on stony ground, who when they hear the word immediately receive it with gladness, but they have no root in themselves, so endure only for a time. Afterward, when tribulation or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. Now these are the ones sown among the thorns. They are the ones who hear the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches and the desires of other things entering in choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. But these are the ones are sown on good ground, those who hear the word, accept it, and bear fruit. Some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. So now let's look at this in light of the wisdom that I shared earlier, that intuitive knowing that there is the highest destiny, and then there is this lower outcome, if we will, and then there's this where it's totally stolen. Jesus here is not talking about that there are some who know the truth and some who don't know the truth. I believe what he's referring here is levels of consciousness. That is all of us. There are always free will, and we are going to make our choice from the place of consciousness. So he says the sower sows the word. So the word is the prophecy. It's the knowing. It's that whisper in our heart. It's that word that you hear from someone and it resonates so deeply, right? It's that destiny calling. And so there are some that when they hear it, Satan comes immediately, takes the word sown from their hearts. So these are the ones, this is us, when our consciousness is closed, where our pineal gland is not activated, when we're not awakened, when we are not walking in higher consciousness, and we are totally in our ego construct, denying this voice, then the voice will come, but we can't even hear it. It doesn't even land. It's immediately stolen from us, okay? So we want to stay awake. We want to activate this pineal gland. We want to stay connected to spirit and have our spiritual practices not as a religion, but as a way to elevate and continue with our conscious alert, right? Then there are others who hear the word, but they have stony ground. Stony ground, for me, means the heart is closed. The stone heart that also Proverbs talks about. When we have a stony ground, a heart, like I sometimes can feel I am so right. Like I have all the reasons why I should be mad. I am so in my own conviction of truth, right? Slipped into ego a little. And heart is closed, stony heart. And so the word comes, they receive it with gladness. So I'm happy when I hear the word, and I'm happy when I hear the prophecy, or I really love it when I hear it, but they have no root in themselves. And so because they have no root, the minute there's tribulation or persecution, what does that mean? The minute someone calls you crazy, the minute someone doubts you, the minute someone says, are you sure about that? Like when I wanted to start my business and Dad said, no one starts a business in recession, there is no money, and yet it was the best thing that I ever did. So I had to stand my ground. I had to stay rooted in the word, in the knowing that I had understood from my higher self. And then there are ones that are sown among the thorns. So these are the ones that are so busy with preoccupations of everything and so busy with life that they have no time to really stand in the fruit and the roots that is their destiny, that is their calling. And Jesus says that they basically get choked up and they get unfruitful. These are like the vines that come in and then strangle the tree, cover it up with too much shade that there's not enough light. So we can lose our destiny that way. We need to make sure that we have our hearts open, that we've got our fertile soil, and that we are rooted in this without the vines, without preoccupation, knowing what is our priority. Our priority is our calling and our destiny, if we want that highest one. And in Mark 20, he says, then there are these that are sown in good ground. Those who hear the word, accept it, bear fruit, sometimes 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. So even your highest destiny, there's echelons of fruit, there's echelons of abundance that you can attain. And so I talk about this right on the homepage of my website. One of the most profound knowings that I had was under a tree in Costa Rica in December of 2019. And in a meditation, I connected with Mother Earth, and she told me, a seed, no matter how potent or the potential, if it's laid on barren ground, it will never bear fruit. And so we need to have good soil. And what that soil means to me is awareness, is that heart open and fertile, where that word comes in and it's seeded, and then it needs to be watered, and it needs to have light, and it needs to be protected. And that's why I talk about the ecosystem of everyday Eden. So this is where I come to this conclusion that, do we have a higher destiny? Hell yes. And our high self actually cries for this destiny. We came for this destiny. We know this destiny deep within ourselves. And then we get conditioned to believe that we're not allowed to have that. And one of the symptoms of not following your destiny is you may feel like you have this deep potential, but somehow you're not allowed to be yourself. Or in your day-to-day, it is so filled with everybody else's needs. It is so filled with everybody else's wants, so filled with so many responsibilities and obligations that you don't feel empowered to actually live your life. The sad thing is, most of us have been conditioned and have grown up this way. I know that most of my life had felt like that. And it's only been in the recent years where I said, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm done. I know what I'm called to be. I know what I am here to do. And I need to be willing to walk away from everything and everyone who is not lining up to this. And that has led me through many dark nights of the soul, where I have had to trust in spirit, like nothing else, to equip my spiritual power, to strengthen my spiritual roots in this fertile soil in order to claim my destiny. And that's why we need to work on our sovereignty, because, many of us, and in spiritual teachings, like, that will say, oh no, you don't really have a destiny, God's will prevail. I do believe love wins, but I don't believe it's going to win without us. I am not naive, and no longer. I have deep faith in divine love because I feel it, I walk in it, I channel it. I know what's on the other side. I know the benevolence of the universe. I know the goodness of God. I trust it with everything in my being. But you know what? The only thing that is more powerful in this third dimension, in this material plane of earth, of life right now, the only thing that is so powerful that it can actually stop this divine will, stop this divine love, is our free will. So this was also what Jesus walked. Many will say that, oh, he was the perfect one, like he was like just walking through this life kind of numb to its temptations, or that he didn't have choices, or he didn't have hardship emotionally, mentally to choose God's will. But it said he cried tears of blood in Gethsemane. He was sitting the day before he was taken to his crucifixion. He cried blood tears. And that's been proven that happens under severe stress. So he said he could have run away. He could have run away. He could have tried and hide, He could have, I don't know, he had choices. We all have choices. And yet he said, not my will, but your will be done. Now, I believe in this time that we're living in now, 2022, when I'm recording this, I believe we have transcended the time of persecution and crucifixion. But we still have that in our DNA, this fears that we are going to be persecuted for who we are and what we believe, that we are going to be gunned down and we're going to be hurt, and those fears are going to show up. But you know what, beloved? Our destiny is calling. And I know that destiny is real, but I know that I need to cooperate and collaborate and lay down my ego will for thy will be done. And thy will is what? And that was a weird thing for me, because I really believe that we're moving from survival consciousness to surrender consciousness. And that's what I'm talking about. This consciousness that has imprisoned us and quarantined us for most of our lives, saying you need to be a certain way to get something. You need to give up on your dreams so that you can survive and be secure. And we can think of like a lot of evil things that are doing this, but it's not these evil things that were doing this. In my life, it was the love of a father that was doing this, right? That's why I shared that story in the beginning. But it's being able in you to see that maybe even it's your closest that have been holding you back, and saying, but you know what? I stand in compassion and I forgive you. And that is when we jump. I believe that moment is when we jump from one timeline to the higher timeline. Is when I'm willing to feel what it's cost to believe what I believe, and stand in the conviction and the softness and the tenderness of my own heart, and stay open in love and say, you know what? It's okay that you don't get it. This is what I need to do, and I love you anyway. And everyone is starting to learn what sovereignty is. The bottom of sovereignty for me, my friend, is if I need to change who I am so that you can feel better, then I've abdicated my sovereignty and I have now let someone else lord over me. And that's not going to work. This dominion, one over another, one higher, one lower than the other, it doesn't work. That's what's created this awful mess that is most of our world right now. A lot of our world, if you're watching media, but there is also the latent goodness that is right here for us to glean in this moment. There is the love that you are. And the divine is waiting for each and every one of us to claim our destiny. And the divine is so loving and so forgiving and so compassionate that guess what? It's not going to judge you if you fail, but you will judge you. You will know that you didn't achieve it, that you didn't do what you came to do. And each has to know what is right for them. And there's no judgment from me. I won't judge you. God won't judge you. But you will judge you. You will know where you have fallen short. And I cannot tell you the gratitude I have for that story, that I chose to forgive. And it's not that I'm so great, because I have messed up many times, but it is a moment, I believe, that I was initiated and I had an opportunity that I either could have stayed in my bitterness of like, you see, this is why I didn't achieve my dreams, you see my dad, or I could have lent my dad complete forgiveness and unconditional love and compassion. And in return, the universe blesses me by saying, wow, yes, you are a speaker, child. Speak your truth, right? And then allows me to go into my destiny. So I would say, yes, we have a destiny. And you know what? No, we don't, because we're getting to create this. And even if we don't fulfill or whatever life we finish up with, that has been perfect because it's been the co-creation that we have created with our Divine Father, with our Divine Mother, with our Divine Self. And therefore I'm committed to support, seekers, leaders, lovers that are seeking their highest destiny, the way showers that know that the universe is benevolent, that the Mother Earth is benevolent, that the planetary consciousness, and the answer is truly love. But the love actually starts within our own wholeness, within us coming home to ourselves. And the most incredible thing for me, which I'm so excited about, is as I've come to master these fears of doing what I am called for in the way that I am called for, that I start getting to call in and attract those that I have been missing my whole life, my soul family, those that look at me and that say, I see you, I get you, I hear you, I understand you, I love you. And that only happens when we are willing to do that for everybody else around us, beloveds. It really is. So we don't have to give up on ourselves. We are a potent seed of a very special tree, a unique as an imprint of our finger. And we are all here with very precious and unique gifts. And it is up to us to plant the seed that we are in fertile soil and make sure that it receives the water it needs, the light it needs, the ecosystem it needs, and allow that being to emerge, to arise, and to serve the world in the way and the song and the vibration that you are, that unique, beautiful note. And know that your life so far has been in perfect alignment. And that's the most incredible thing about destiny. It's never been wrong. In that instant, you can choose to understand that every step has led you right now. And right now is where all the power is to create the future that we want to create. I really hope you've enjoyed this Wholeness Wisdom Well podcast. I hope you'll be joining me again. And I hope that you claim your destiny because it's as real as you create it. Much love, everybody. Namaste, aho, and take care. Amen. Bye.